Today's Mercedes-Benz interview of the day brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Celebrate the journeys that bring you closer together. An exclusive offer on a vehicle you'll adore. Mercedes-Benz Holiday Love Celebration going on now through January 2nd. Learn more at mbusa.com/special offers. Jason Garrett, a busy man. He was on the call Miami, Green Bay on Thanksgiving and had Notre Dame a couple of weeks ago. Football Night in America analyst, former Cowboys head coach. Chargers Chiefs coming up on Sunday night on Peacock. You can see him there as well. You want to start college football or you want to talk NFL football?
Hey, you're in charge. You decide.
What if we use the college format, like when we ranked teams in the NFL, and in accordance to that, you had playoff matchups. So the Chiefs could be playing somebody from, the NFC in the playoffs as opposed to the AFC. Like, who's the number one seed? Who'd be the Oregon in the NFL right now?
I still think Detroit's the Oregon. They've been really good. They've been dominant. The concern with them, though, is the injury thing on defense. But that's a little bit of the Florida State argument from last year, right? They win all their games. They put their backup in. They continue to win. But, we don't think they're good enough. But I do think what they've done on the field over the course of the year, they're number one.
It feels like the Eagles are an underdog story. It feels like Buffalo is an underdog story. How does that happen when you're two of the three best teams in the NFL right now?
Well, I don't know how it happens, but they're both really good, and I love what Philly's done. Philly is a really talented team across the board. If you look at their offensive line, their defensive line, their skill players, their playmakers, Saquon is an MVP candidate for me, and it's amazing what they've done. If you think about 10-1 last year and then an epic slide, they were horrendous at the end of last year. And there were some real issues in that organization. And for them to right the ship like they have, started 2-2 this year. But I give a lot of credit to Nick Sirianni. I give a lot of credit to Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore for on either side of the ball, just getting those guys playing the right way. And playing up to their talent. And there's a really good feeling there. I was in Buffalo on Friday. There's an amazing feeling in Buffalo. The quarterback is off the charts. I just love the vibe they have in that building. And again, talk about two coaches, Sirianni and McDermott, guys who are really underappreciated. I mean, Sean McDermott, they've won the division 5 years in a row. They've been to the playoffs 7 out of 8 years. And I think they got a lot of young players on that team, and they're just understanding that winning's the most important thing, and everybody's just diving into their roles. And of course, they get the snow game Sunday night, and they go have a heck of a lot of fun and kind of show that to the world. But I just love both those teams. Again, I don't know if they're underdog stories or not, but they're damn good.
Who does Josh Allen remind you of?
When I shouldn't say growing up because he's not that much older than I am, but I had so much admiration for John Elway. I'm in high school. He's in college at Stanford, and then he goes on to play in the NFL. And I'm like, I've never seen anybody like this. His ability to run and throw and make plays, and he just was incredible. And so when you have guys like that in your life, Marino, Elway, some of those guys, it's like nobody can ever compare to them. But when you pull back, I'm like, he reminds me of a version of John Elway, his ability to run the ball, throw it all over the place. And for years, he was putting Buffalo on his back, and now they're better around him. And he doesn't feel like he has to do that all the time. But in the big moments, he does, just like Elway used to. So that would be my comparison right now, both elite players.
Yeah, I could see Cam Newton as well in there with Josh Allen. I mean, they ran in a more physical way than Elway did. But I don't know if you see those comps as well.
Well, for me with Cam, I think Cam, go back to Cam in college. I mean, they're running quarterback power, I mean, he's in behind these guys. I mean, it's like, 1924, four horsemen type stuff. And, for me, I see the effectiveness as a runner like Cam. Cam, I thought, was unique that way. And I just think Josh I think he's a rare passer. His ability to throw the ball from the pocket out in space. I just think a cut above Cam for me throwing the ball.
We were talking about comeback player of the year. Now, here's a couple of our candidates. Russell Wilson, Sam Darnold. Now, we're not talking about an injury. It's more perception. Saquon Barkley, could he be up for comeback player of the year? Out of those three, who would you pick? Or if you had another?
Well, I think there are three great candidates, and I'll hit Russell first. If you think about what's happened with Russell over the last couple of years, I mean, I think a lot of people said, he's probably done. He's close to being done. I can see why Pittsburgh takes a shot at him. Maybe they can revive him. They don't give him a huge contract. Let's kind of see what happens there. And for him to play as well as he has, and, the other day was big. This wasn't, hey, Pittsburgh, let's play great defense, let's run the ball. He threw for 414 yards in that game. Now, is Cincinnati good on defense? Not really right now. So I get that. But I thought they'd go into that game, hammer them, Russell make a couple big plays in the passing game. Pittsburgh wins the game with their defense. That was not the game. So it's not like they're winning despite him. I mean, he's a major contributor to it. And if you think about comeback player, where have they been? He wasn't in a good place the last couple of years. He's revived himself. The Darnold story is fantastic, and I think it's a really good story for a lot of teams when you think about young quarterbacks. You thrust them into a situation when they're young. It's not a real good situation. They got to do it all themselves. They're still learning how to play, and these guys get resurrected. And you and I have talked about this before, about Tom Brady, so many things he's done, at the highest level in the NFL. But for him to play till he's 45, for Drew Brees to play till he's 40, Aaron Rodgers, Phillip Rivers, all of these guys, the runway for quarterbacks is a lot longer than it used to be. And I think, the way we protect quarterbacks these days has contributed to that. But this idea that you can take a guy who has ability, who's the right kind of guy, who's been in a bad place, and he can revive himself and resurrect himself because these guys are going to play much longer. I think that's an important story to tell. And I'm going to hit the last one because I love him to death. The Saquon story is just off the charts for me. I mean, the demise of the running back, you can't pay running backs. They're done when they're 27. Watch the Eagles play. I mean, he's an incredible player, and he might be the single most important player in contributing to what I was talking about earlier with Philly. He's an amazing guy. Everybody's behind him. And again, I think beyond his ability on the field and his production, he's bringing an energy to that organization that's really making a difference.
Talking to Jason Garrett, NBC Football Night in America analyst. It'll be the Chargers and the Chiefs on Sunday night. Speaking of protecting the quarterback, the Trevor Lawrence hit. Does the NFL look at the sliding portion of this? And if so, what kind of modifications do you think the NFL should make on that?
Well, I think they have to look at it. Everyone has the right intentions here. Player safety and all the rules changes they've made at all positions, how we do things in the offseason, training camp, practice, all of that. And then in relation to the quarterback, I think these are all really good things to do. But, now you're in that little gray area that these quarterbacks are sliding later and later and later. They know they're getting protected. They get to the sideline. They fake like they're going out, and they make 20 more yards. I mean, there's all these things. So I think they have to guard against that. I heard somebody saying, hey, maybe we should penalize the offensive guys. Maybe that's the only thing you truly can do. And I get that. I'm not quite there yet. But I do think they have to allow guys to hit these quarterbacks. And the hit on Trevor Lawrence, egregious. I agree with the punishment, all of that. But there's a lot of gray there for these defensive players, and you can see them playing hesitantly. So I wouldn't be opposed to some kind of penalty for a quarterback if he clearly is trying to dupe the defender and not just getting down.
I mentioned this yesterday, and we were just kind of throwing stuff against the wall. But, when a player is going to signal for a fair catch on a punt, then you can't hit him. If a quarterback is getting ready to slide and holds his one hand up, like you are signaling that I'm giving myself up. Or if Patrick Mahomes is dancing down the sidelines, he doesn't put his hand up, you blast him. Can you ask a quarterback to protect himself? He'll be running with the football. You just put your hand up. You've signified that I'm not going to keep running. It's a white flag. What's the possibility of that being put into play?
I think it's a hell of an idea. I really do. I do think it's different than a punt returner. You're in that environment as a punt returner. You're by yourself as the ball goes up there, and you're really there's no restriction on you being able to do that. Picture some of these guys in the middle of traffic on the sidelines. Now I got to stick my hand up. Oh, you didn't stick your hand up. Now I can blast you. I think that gets a little dicey. I don't think the environment's quite as clean. But, I've seen college games where these guys start their dive early.
Well, Kenny Pickett did it, and then
God,
that was.
It's just.
They changed the rule, though, Jason. The next week they changed that rule in college football. But you're right. But somebody's going to blast Mahomes one of these days because he gives that I'm going out of bounds and I'm not. I'm going to dance down the side. You can see defenders; they have no idea what to do with Mahomes.
Yeah, and people lose sight of the fact that these decisions these guys are making are happening in split seconds.
Yeah.
We watch the replay and we say, oh, he could have hit him. Oh, he should have targeted. I'm like, do you guys understand how fast a play happens in football? It's ridiculous. And so you're asking these guys, the receiver who catches it and he's right there. Then at the last second, he drops his head 6 inches and it goes from this glancing blow to you hit. I'm like, it's hard on these guys. So I think we need to be more understanding of that as they go forward. But I think penalizing a guy who's intentionally doing it, I don't know that that's a bad way to go.
How would you handle Justin Tucker if you were his head coach?
I would absolutely stick with him. I'm not opposed to bringing a guy in on the practice roster and having a guy kick as well. At the end of the day, all decisions are made in the best interest of the football team. And I don't care how much success and history you have together. Justin Tucker understands that. He understands that he has to make kicks. So it's a little bit for me like a lot of people say with these young quarterbacks, oh, if you sit him down, he's done. John Elway said last week, hey, the best thing that ever happened to me was after the 4th game my rookie year, they benched me. And now John Elway has to respond, and he responds in a way that he becomes one of the all-time greats. And so you're seeing that with Bryce Young. You're seeing that with Anthony Richardson. These guys are responding. And if they don't respond, you got the wrong guy playing quarterback. So I bring that up just to say Justin Tucker's been around this league forever. He understands. The Ravens got to win. He's got to make his kicks. So to bring a guy in to say, hey, if we're not doing this, this guy's kicking on the side, this gives us the best chance. I don't see that as an issue. I don't see that as a problem. But I like what John Harbaugh's done. You stick with him, and you say, hey, you're our kicker. But at some point, we got to make the decision that's best for the team, and maybe that's the way you dip your toe into that decision.
How does a kicker forget how to kick?
It's I'm not a kicking guru by any means, so I don't mean to suggest that I am, but it's a highly precise operation. When you think about snap, hold, kick, they're so good at it. The ability for a long snapper to snap it in a way where it's 8 yards deep and he's going to hit the holder with the laces on his top hand so he can put it down. I mean, it's like elite stuff. And I think the same thing goes for kicking mechanics. If the toe of the foot is an inch too wide, and that opens up your hips too much, and then you overcompensate, you come back the other way. I think that's the kind of stuff that happens, not unlike a golf swing, right? You're not hitting it right. Hey, the club face is open, then I compensate. Now I'm hooking it. All that kind of stuff. I think that's what's going on. There's a lot of moving parts, but nobody knows kicking more than Justin Tucker. I mean, this is the greatest kicker of all time. So I'm certainly hopeful that he can find the key because they need him coming down the stretch. There's no doubt about that.
Notre Dame will win the national title if what?
Two things. If they continue to play great defense, a little bit sloppier the other day against USC, but they've been a fantastic defense. one of the best defenses all year long. So if they continue to do that and play through their defense and their running game, and then Riley Leonard can make a couple plays, I think they can win. They're going to win in an old school fashion, but I think they can do it.
How does a team become tougher?
You have to do tough things to be tougher. I think the first thing is you got to bring the right kind of people in. There's a great John Madden expression. He said, for years in Oakland, we weren't a good tackling team, and we worked very hard at tackling. And then Jack Tatum was available to come from Ohio State, and we said, we're going to draft Jack Tatum. He was an incredible tackler, and all of a sudden our team became a better tackling team. So I do think it starts with who you bring into the building, but you have to do tough things. And unfortunately, in this day and age in pro football, because of the stuff we're talking about before with player safety, they've taken away the offseason program. You can't have padded practices, all of those things that help make teams tough. You do a lot less of that these days. But I think you have to put pads on. I think you have to be physical in practice. You have to compete, challenge guys, and just make that part of who you are. That team in Detroit that we were talking about before, Dan Campbell, Baltimore, Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, all those teams that are tough, the teams that are playing the best right now, they do hard things in practice, and it shows up on Sundays.
Take the money out of this, but you have to make a decision next year. You could start Jameis Winston or Deshaun Watson in Cleveland.
Oh, Jameis Winston. Yeah, I think the Deshaun Watson experiment should be over in Cleveland. And they need to move on. I don't know how they do it, how they pay him or don't pay him. I think you have to navigate the situation where the salary cap hit is at a minimum. But I would absolutely play Jameis Winston. Jameis is not a perfect quarterback, but he's certainly revived their team. And I just think there are too many issues with Deshaun. Deshaun was a hell of a player at one point in his career, but he's not the same guy. And maybe he needs another new place. With not a big $232 million guaranteed contract to start his career over again. But I don't think he should be the quarterback in Cleveland.
Hypothetically, have you ever been told to play somebody that you didn't want to play?
I don't know that I've been directly told that, to be honest with you. There's
indirectly, have you been told?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's philosophy. This comes up with coaches sometimes. Older players are more reliable. Older players have experience. They know how to play. They can help you win in the short term. But sometimes you got to pull back as an organization and say, this guy's a progress stopper. He's going to let us play better now, but in the long run, this guy will play better, and we got to take our lumps. So I don't know that it's been directly, but you pull back philosophically as an organization, and sometimes you have to make some of those decisions. And sometimes they're right, and sometimes they're wrong. The evaluation's wrong. One of the issues I have with the NFL right now that I experienced a few different times, and I see it a lot in the NFL, is just because they're young, just because we drafted them, doesn't mean they deserve to play. They have to earn that right too. So in a quest to be younger and play younger guys, you got to make sure they're earning it along the way.
Good stuff. Have fun on Sunday night. Thanks for joining us as always.
You're the best. Thanks, Dan.
That's Jason Garrett. Football night in America. It'll be the Chiefs and the Chargers. We'll come back. Last call for phone calls. What we learn, what's in store tomorrow after this.